Golden State, less than 48 hours after getting an emotional Game 7 win in Houston, goes to Minneapolis to the Target Center and steals Game 1. But at what cost? 13 minutes into his game, 15 minutes into the game, Steph Curry comes up limp, holding at his hamstring, turns out to be a strained hamstring. Crazy. First, strained muscle of his career. That was an interesting stat with all the time he's missed, but it's ankle stuff and everything like that, broken bones, whatever. Now he's out through at least Game 4. These injuries, especially for a 37-year-old, they aren't the easiest to come back from. 7 to 10 days is the recovery time. So I guess we'll just come out and straight up say it. Is there even a path for the Warriors to keep this within the realm of possibility until they potentially could get Steph back? We were talking about this the other day in a work chat, and I was like, a lot of things have to go right. But what do you think is the path for the Warriors hanging around, or is there no path at all?
No, there's definitely a path. If they had lost that Game 1 and then lose Steph to this injury, I don't think this is a scolding hot take. I think the series would be over. That. We saw what that offense looked like without Steph Curry. We didn't get much of a sample size of it once Jimmy Butler jumped on board, but we saw what that offense looked like all season long without Steph Curry, and it is so ugly. And Jimmy Butler definitely relieves a lot of that pressure. We're going to see a Miami playoff Jimmy type performance, I would assume, tonight and in Game 3 and in Game 4 without Steph. That's the case if he ends up being out that long, but he's going to have to shoulder a lot more offensive responsibility, not just as a scorer, but also as a playmaker. Draymond's been scoring the ball a little bit more. Maybe they're going to need that from him, which is not necessarily something you want to hear if you're a Warriors fan, but somebody else is going to have to step up. Obviously, Buddy Hield has been the guy the last 2 games. They haven't gotten a lot from Pods. They haven't gotten anything from Jonathan Kuminga. But somebody else is going to have to be the guy. And can Buddy Hield consistently be that guy? I don't really think the answer is yes. So at this point, if he's going to be out for the next 3 games, the Warriors just have to hope that it is 2-2 when Steph is hopefully able to get back onto the court. 2-2 is what they should be shooting for. Can we win one of these next 3 games? I would be absolutely shocked. And again, we're recording this on the morning of Thursday, May 8th. So, tonight, or by the time that you listen to this, that outcome will already happen. I would be absolutely shocked if the Wolves don't respond in a big way and beat the Warriors and even the series back up. From there, though, it's gut check time for the Warriors. They've been here before. They have the experience. Can they weather the storm enough to get one win back at Chase Center? It's still just a knee-jerk reaction to say that. Easy. Can they get one win back at Chase Center? That's probably the answer to who wins the series. If the answer is yes, they can get one win at Chase Center until Steph gets back, then they have as good of a chance as the Wolves do to advance. But if they can't and they lose all 3 of these games without Steph, then all of a sudden there's no shot. When Steph's coming back trying to work his way back from a hamstring injury. And again, like you said, who knows? This is the first time he's dealt with a muscle strain like this. So who knows what level of Steph we will even get once the Warriors get him back on the court. So I don't know if you feel any differently about it. I don't know how you feel about how this affects their chances, or if Game 1 has saved them and gives them enough of a security blanket until he gets back. But I don't know where you stand on that.
Yeah, I'm with you. You got to win one out of these 3. But the thing is, how does that happen? So I think it has to be a combination of things. The wild card is, does Minnesota lay an egg? Does Minnesota have a dud? Does that happen again in Game 2? I doubt it. Does it happen in one of the 2 games in the Bay? I could see that happening. Okay, now how does Golden State take advantage? Well, the starting point is a big Jimmy Butler, is Miami Jimmy, right? We need 2020, 2023 Jimmy Butler to show up. Gotta need Buddy Hield to be able, he's not Steph, but we need him running around. There were some moments in Game 1 where he was able to kind of take the Steph role in the offense, and he can shoot the leather off the ball. So you do have to take into account his capabilities of doing that. So that kind of opens up the offense, or keeps the offense open. And then you need somebody to step up. You mentioned Pods. You mentioned, a guy like Jonathan Kuminga. Does he figure it out? Because they have to play him. Can he get it together? Is it a guy like Quentin Post coming in and spot minutes? But you need these guys to kind of step up and play outside of their capabilities in order to kind of make up for all of that. And I think that's the formula. Honestly, as I say it, that's kind of the 2023 Heat, right? Jimmy Butler just put a bunch of guys on his back and said, you guys just play as well as you can, or play better than you actually are. And if they can get something like that, then there's a path to where, if we're looking at Steph coming back, game 5, maybe, there's a chance. Because there's also the thing of if there's a point where Steph gets, like you said, who knows how he's going to respond? He's 37 years old. But does he get to a point where he's at 80, 85%? and they're like, you can't make it any worse. It's just a matter of, and I know it's a little bit different with soft tissue injuries. It's not like a bruised bone or anything like that. But if he can't make it any worse, or there's not as much risk of making it worse, Steph as a spot up shooter is, way bigger threat than the majority of the NBA. So even a limited Steph can help with this team. But more often than not, I think coming into the series, I thought the Timberwolves were the better team. I think that they came out a little flat. They also haven't been able to make a shot. I think they're 12 of their last 70 3-pointers. They missed their first 16 in game one. I don't expect that to happen again. I think that they were a little surprised by having home court, honestly. Like, I'm sure they expected to be a good team, but they doubted to be opening the second round at home. So, I expect them to take advantage of their size advantage. I expect Ant to realize again, hey, wait, there's no rim protector in here. I don't have to shoot all these threes. I can drive at will. And that opens so much else up for the Timberwolves. So again, they've only played one game. The concern level is on Golden State side because their guy, Batman, is out. But I know the Minnesota Timberwolves need to have a sense of urgency because they can't just rest on, hey, Steph's out, we're good. Jimmy Butler's on the other side. He's motivated to go against his former team. So there's still a lot at play, but I like the Timberwolves in this series still.
I actually, this is, I guess, asked backwards in a way of like Anthony Edwards has not been shooting the ball well. So all of a sudden I'm expecting him to start shooting the ball well. Like, it doesn't always work that way, but I mean, he's 1 for 16 from 3 over his last 2 games. This is a guy that led the NBA in total threes this year. He was bombing away. He was shooting almost 40% and he took more threes than anybody in the league this year. So I expect him to respond. I expect him to have a big game. We haven't seen that from him since he had that 40-point game against the Lakers, which feels like a decade ago at this point, with just the way that the playoffs have been so far. But, he's due. And that might just be enough for him to, again, we're recording this before. So by the time you hear this, maybe he has another stinker and I sound like an idiot as you're listening to me right now. But, for a shooter as good as he is, who has unwavering confidence the way that he does, after going 1 for 16 over his last 2 games from 3, it would not surprise me if he has a game where he really gets going from 3, finds a stroke, finds a rhythm, evens up this series and puts the Timberwolves in the driver's seat, even though it's 1-1 going to San Francisco with Steph Curry out.
Yeah, 100%. I think, again, I just by how impressive they were in that first round series and a lot of things they did and what you talked about with Ant in that 40-point game and those things, like, droughts happen, slumps happen during the season. And this just so happens to have happened to him at this point in the playoffs. It happened to the Timberwolves at this point in the playoffs as well. And again, tip of the cap. And I'm sure you talked to our guy Malatowski about it a little bit, but they got Pat Spencer coming in and making big plays, showing up for Golden State as well. So if Minnesota can figure out, maybe watch some lax tape to figure out how to stop him on the basketball court or something, making sky hooks, the photos on that sky hook were crazy. But, again, next man up mentality for the Warriors. So it'll be interesting to see how that series plays out. Thanks for checking out NBA Sound System Canada on YouTube. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe below and find us wherever you get your podcasts. And on Instagram, we have weekly episodes and bonus content throughout the week.